speaker is going to be Ozgur. And Ozgur is in fact a lawyer, a doctorate in human rights from Essex University now, the European Studies Centre of St Andrews in Oxford, and his special area, as you might guess, is to do with conscientious objection. He's written books on it, one of which has a Turkish title I'm not even going to pretend to try to tell you. But he's written, in fact, more than one book, several books on conscientious objection, and one of them is quite a standard work on this topic published by Z Books 2 or 3 years ago. So I'll hand over to Ozgur to talk about the first thing, and you'll talk for 10 minutes about the situation COs in Turkey.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting and giving me the opportunity to talk about the conscientious objection issue in Turkey. It's quite a privilege to be here. And well, throughout history, different forms of military organizations have caused people to refuse military service for various reasons. One of the most direct forms of resisting war and military service is conscientious objection, based on conscience, religious or political beliefs and convictions. The phenomenon of CO, sometimes I will call CO in the short context of conscientious objections, the phenomenon of conscientious objection today deserves more public and academic discussion in some countries where the army is particularly dominant, such as Turkey, Israel, Paraguay, Chile, among others. For instance, in these countries, as you know, the armed forces have their own industries, schools, universities, hospitals, and all these institutions have a special status different from that of similar institutions throughout the rest of the country. In this presentation, I will focus on Turkey because it is the only remaining country among the 47 members of the Council of Europe not recognize conscientious objection as a right. In addition, there is no form of any alternative service in Turkey either. Turkey is in the European Union candidate, for which the army has always had a dominant role. The Turkish military is the second largest military in NATO, and also when we look at the gross domestic product, means GDP, Turkey is the fourth largest globally in terms of military spending. Furthermore, for Turkish citizens, the military service has a huge social, cultural, political, and economic significance. Military service remains obligatory for every male Turkish citizen who reaches the age of 20. There are more than 400 objectors at the moment. For instance, Osman Murat Ülke, Mehmet Taram, Mehmet Bal, and Halil Savda have been sentenced to multiple terms of imprisonment because of their disobedience to military service or military authority. The main problem is also mentioned by the European Court of Human Rights in 2006 in the case of Ülke versus Turkey, that there was no specific provision in Turkish law governing penalties for those who refuse to wear uniform on conscientious or religious grounds. European Court of Human Rights found the violation of Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights and ordered Turkey to pay 11,000 euros in compensation. In addition, the European Court of Human Rights used the term civil death to describe the situation of objectors in Turkey. As Uğur Yorulmaz, one of the Turkish objectors, explained the meaning of civil death as follows. There is tremendous social pressure you have to face. You cannot find a job, you cannot go abroad, and you cannot get a passport. It is indeed a heavy burden when you think about all this. Then there are all the people around you, your family, your friends, that you have to face and struggle against. And you have to keep doing this every single day, all your life, numerous times. Nothing will be over once you have made your declaration. It will continue for the rest of your life. You cannot just do it and get it over with. It will stay with you forever. Well, this is the situation in Turkey at the moment. On the other hand, as a European Union candidate, Turkey has made some changes in its legislation in conformity with the political criteria of European Union standards. But its legal and social stance on conscientious objection has not been challenged so far. The question is, why the right DCO has not been challenged so far in Turkey? Why are objectors in Turkey still in civil death? In that point, maybe it's a good idea to pay attention to the Turkish legal system on the issue of CO and conscription. Article 72 of the 1982 Constitution, Turkish Constitution, states that national service is the right and duty of every Turk. The manner in which this service shall be performed or considered as performed, either in the armed forces or in the public service, shall be regulated by law. It seems that there is an alternative civilian service in accordance with this article. However, this is not easy as it looks. When we read Article 72 carefully again, it states either in the armed forces or in the public service shall be regulated by law. This article takes us to the specific law, which is the Military Service Act. It was adopted in 1927. Proclaims every male Turkish citizen is obliged to perform his military service in accordance with this law. In addition, Article 45 of the Military Penal Code states that individuals may not evade military service and penalties may not be revoked for religious or moral reasons. However, according to Article 24 of the Constitution, Turkish Constitution, everyone has the right to freedom of conscience, religious belief, and conviction. So it means the relevant articles of the Military Act and the Military Penal Code clash with the Turkish Constitution clearly. It violates the Constitution and the international treaties, all of which Turkey is signatory to, recognize the freedom of conscience. In other words, objectors in Turkey are the victims of the clash between the Constitution and the ordinary law. During this clash, it should be noted that objectors refuse to perform military service, but they are still treated as soldiers, as they are tried at the military court. Nevertheless, there have been some amendments to the Military Court Act lately, and one of these amendments involved objectors, conscientious objectors, who are actually draft evaders, will be tried at civil courts instead at the moment. In that sense, the question arises, what crimes objectors really are now subject under Turkish Penal Code or Military Penal Code? For example, yoklama kaçağı, failing to undergo draft examination, draft evasion, desertion, persistent disobedience, or intent to evade military service or alienate other soldiers to revolt have a punishment which is between 1 month and 10 years imprisonment, depending on the circumstances. In addition, objectors are not only subject to imprisonment between 1 month and 10 years, they are also subject to disciplinary proceedings. For instance, Halil Savla, one of the Turkish objectors, was put in cells for more than 40 days in total because he refused to shave his beard, wear a prison uniform, and various other reasons. More than 40 days. Furthermore, when the objector, while he is still a civilian, or anybody who is not an objector but supports objectors or write the conscientious objection or criticize the Turkish army in any way, they face Article 318 of the Turkish Penal Code, which states alienating the public from the institution of military service. When this article is read in conjunction with the 2006 anti-terror law, these people could now be imprisoned up to 4.5 years imprisonment. For example, Perihan Maden, she is a journalist. She wrote an article which was entitled "Conscientious Objection is a Human Right" in the New Actual magazine in December 2005. After that, the prosecutor charged her with prompting, encouraging, or spreading propaganda to deter people from accomplishing military service. Yes, Perihan Maden was acquitted finally in 2006 because of the freedom of expression and etc. But on the other hand, Halil Savda, for example, was not as lucky as Perihan Maden. He was sentenced to 5 months imprisonment because in a press release in 2006, he declared his support for 2 Israeli objectors who objected Israel's occupation of Lebanon. It means even if someone would support other objectors in the world, just in Turkey, they are also subject to Article 318 of the Turkish Penal Code. As we can understand from this picture, the objectors and their supporters are very brave in Turkey. For men, there is always a clear message in history and society. The person who doesn't perform military service cannot be useful to himself, his family, or his country. This is the citation from one of the book about the national security book. They usually teach this book in the primary school and secondary and high school level. The person who doesn't perform military service cannot be useful to himself, his family, or his country. This is the clear message. Overall, compulsory military service not only masculinizes first-class citizenship, it also defines masculinity itself in Turkey. Military conscription is a first step on the path to manhood. Indeed, it is the essential condition of manliness. For example, many families still will not favor marriage until the prospective husband has completed his service. With regard to the connection between masculinity, first-class citizenship, and being a soldier in Turkey, it should be noted that homosexuality is described as a psychological disorder by the Turkish army. At that point, maybe it is necessary to mention the experience of homosexual objectors during the process for the unfit report from the military. When a man declares that he doesn't want to join the army, the military, because he is homosexual, he has to prove his sexual orientation to a committee in a military hospital. The individual has to prove his homosexuality, providing video or photographic evidence showing him having sexual intercourse with his partner. Furthermore, he is sent to the surgical unit of the military hospital for a rectal examination. Clearly, this is a violation of human dignity, which is stated under Article 17 of the Turkish Constitution and also the European Convention on Human Rights. As also, this situation is a violation of Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights and Article 20 of the Turkish Constitution, which both regulate the freedom of private and family life. On the other hand, the Turkish army sometimes gives the unfit report automatically to objectors without any proof because of trying to get rid of the public face objectors. In the case of Ali Savda in 2008, the Çorlu Military Hospital Medical Council gave the unfit report team based on antisocial behavior and lack of masculinity and Turkishness. The Iskender Military Hospital Medical Council also gave exactly the same report to Mehmet Bal, another objector. However, in both cases, Halis Savda and Mehmet Bal have not recognized this report. In conclusion, the founders of Turkey were aiming to create a new nation, which is the military nation idea. Therefore, they have changed the structure of the state and the dynamics of society based on the idea of military nation. In this process, military always has an important role and mission in the society. However, Turkey has to address this problem as soon as possible. If Turkey would like to join the European Union, they must amend their domestic provisions so as not to clash with the international standards, which recognize the right to CEO. In addition, this recognition might be the beginning of challenging the taboo of the myth of military nation, including masculinity, first-class citizenship, and the meaning of national duty and so on. I also hope that the art kind of exhibitions will increase the awareness of the society about the conscription, which strongly affect the young person's life. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Ozgur. I must say just one particular thing that I thought was most fascinating was the point about how when people were saying something supportive of conscientious objectors in another country which Turkish regime may not be terribly friendly with, still they get prosecuted. The fact that despite nationalism, when it comes to the crunch, the military around the world are all on one side and we're on another, and I think that's really enlightening. Right, but now
actually, I also agree with Joe what he said. If you don't try, well, you don't know whether you are going to be successful or not. It's all about trying. And yes, there are lots of obstacles on our side, in the media, government, and the people. Even when I look at Turkey, and I was just talking to a couple of friends 5-10 minutes ago, I was saying there is, according to recent surveys in Turkey, there are more than 80% of the Turkish population that are still in favor of Turkish military and conscription. More than 80%. So what we are going to do, and we are going to leave everything, and we will stop explaining what the meaning of conscientious objection and etc. No, we have to try. And when you look at the whole Turkish picture, there are more than 70 million population we are talking about, a huge country, but there are only 430 objectors. So it's nothing. But and also when you look at, there are more than 500,000 draft evaders in Turkey. It means actually there's a quite strong potential, but people are also scared to declare their conscientious objection in public. Because when they declare, it means they are going to take the part of this, civil death circle. So there are lots of issues, but at the end of the day, let's say, for example, today the CEO Day, and also I received an email from the network, anti-war network in Turkey. They set up the Conscientious Objection Association. After a long time, because the first association was established in 1990s. It was shut down by the Turkish state, because it was saying alienating the public from the military service and etc. Same cliche stereotypes. Anyway, after a long time, today they establish another Conscientious Objection Association with a few people, and it means there is a hope, there is a potential. And we need to go out, we need to talk to people, we need to convince people, we need to explain the meaning of CEO without stopping. Otherwise, if you don't try, how you are going to know? And the important thing, what Joe said, and during his service, he was saying, most of the people, they don't even know they have a right to CEO, and they have a right to exercise right to CEO. And some of them they are aware, but they have really limited information, thinking CEO just based on religious belief, and means we have to put our effort and we have to put our knowledge and to share with other people. It's very important.